Today's project, we're back on this Razor MX650. Last time I upgraded the motor, the controller, and the battery to make it go about 28 miles an hour. Today we're going to work on the suspension. I want to make it so it doesn't bottom out every time, and I want to raise the seat height up so it's a lot more comfortable. To do that, I'm going to put some oversized springs in the front forks with longer bolts. In the rear, I'm going to add this coilover shock that's probably twice as big as what it is now. And then the final piece of that will be to add a new kickstand so it won't sit way over. Should be pretty easy. Hopefully it won't take too long, so let's get into it. To change the springs in the front forks, the first thing we need to do is take the front axle out so we can get the wheel off. It's a 17 millimeter nut on this side and 14 millimeter head on the other end of the bolt. There's a washer on this end and then two spacers in between. For reference, this is how it goes on. Spacers go in like this, washer, nut on this end. The next thing you need to do is go down in the fork and undo the bolt here. It's an Allen head and it's pretty far down, so you'll need a long extension. It's a 5 millimeter and 18-inch extension here. Okay, there we have it. After you get the bottom of the shock out with this bolt, you got to go ahead and pry this white spacer bushing out. I basically got in here with both of these, pried them open. They'll slide out just like this. I'm going to go in here with the little coat hanger and hopefully pull this stuff out of here. Okay, this bushing was like this. The wider gap is facing upwards. Lastly, we have our spring here. This little bushing that went on the bottom. At the very bottom, we had this other bushing here. I'm gonna go ahead and take this apart too so I can clean it all up at one time. I cleaned everything up in here as best I could, so I think it's time to put it back together. First, I just wanted to show you the difference between the old spring and the new spring. It's probably almost double in size, so we'll go ahead and put this in here now. First thing that you want to do is use the bottom bushing if you had one that worked. Mine was totally gone, so I had to go out to Home Depot and make a little bushing out of some PVC. So we'll slide that down in there. Then this little rubber piece goes inside the spring. I don't think it's going to do anything for mine, but can put it in there. Okay, this, you'll use the opposite side of the bushing that you used the first time. So you'll just fit this on here like that, and you can drop her down in. Once you have the bottom of the shock set up and you have the bushing in, you can go ahead and slide the bolt that came with it out. It just slides right out of the end here. Now you need to switch over your hardware, so the little rubber piece and the washer onto this. Now you slide this back in here. Once you have it out like this, put your little boot on. Don't forget it. Now slide it up so you can get it in. There we have it. Now I'm going to set up this side the same way. There we go. Now we just need to tighten these two up. Oh, and I need one more thing here. These new bolts are, I think a 6 millimeter instead of a 5. Okay, once you have those bolts tightened up, I like to just check it one more time, make sure they're both doing what you want. They look good, so now we'll put the axle back on. Put the bushing in, try to get it in your brake, You have one more bushing here, and a washer and a nut. Make sure your wheel still spins, and back it off just a hair. Alright, there we go. These front forks are looking good now, so I'm going to move on to replacing this back coilover. First thing I need to do is just take these plastics off. Now I need two 5mm Allen wrenches to take the top and bottom bolts out of this shock. Now I'm going to take a small punch that fits inside the threads and drive it out very easily. Support the back. Okay, there we have it. Here's a comparison of the old shock and the new one. As you can see, this one's about twice as big as well, but the ends will fit in here. So first thing that I'm going to do is put the bolt in the top one and just very loosely put it together. Once you have that done, you can lift the bike up and put it down in this one. Once you have them both in, you can begin to tighten them down. Okay, back shock is in. That's what it looks like with a stock kickstand. I don't know if it's easy enough for you to tell, but that's straight up, so it's laying down way too much. After sitting on this, I actually moved it back to this hole right here. It sits a little lower. I don't think it needed to be as high as it was. Moving on, take this off. It's just a 6mm. Comes off just like that. Okay, to put this kickstand on here, I just have the kickstand, a washer, and the bolt that came with it. I'm using the washer just to take up some extra space because it's a little wider than it needed to be. So get it all lined up. Put my bolt down through here. And I think this is a 17mm. Last thing that I'm going to do before I call this good is hook this spring up here. Okay, the spring is on. It's working good. Here's what the final product looks like. It's much taller. This kickstand works good now. I think the stock height on these Razor MX650s is about 24.5 inches. And here we have about 28.5, 29 inches now. So this raised it up about 4 inches. And when I sit on it now, it's nice and tall. I think that's going to do it for today with this suspension upgrade on this Razor MX650. We put the longer springs in the front with the new bolts. We upgraded the rear coilover shock, and we put this 12-inch kickstand on. I think this is going to be perfect for me. Like I said, we got about 4.5 inches of ride height. I don't think that I'm going to bottom this thing out every time I ride it now. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.